Today we are going to be working on some DIY home decor. Today is just some everyday home decor, but it won't be long before we're starting fall. Let me know what you think about that down below. I know I did put a poll up on my community tab as far as when you start decorating, but you have to start creating before you decorate, right? So within the next couple of weeks, we'll probably be starting some fall DIYs here on this channel, which I'm very excited for. But today we're just working on some everyday kind of farmhouse style home decor on a budget. As always, that's what we do on this channel. Let's get started. We're going to look at some ways to use this faux leather from the Dollar Tree, although you can pick something like this up at other craft stores, but I had this in my stash and I do love the texture that this brings to my decor. So I'm going to cover a book. Now this is a book that I previously covered with brown craft paper. I do this a lot, and one nice thing about the brown craft paper is I just kind of tape it on the inside and it doesn't ruin the integrity of the book at all. So if it's a book that you want to keep and maybe even still read, you can do that. But you can buy a book from the Dollar Tree or from a thrift store, something like that. But I'm going to go ahead and just use our faux leather on top of the brown craft paper. I decided to attach it with some Mod Podge because hot glue sometimes will leave like the raised bumps underneath the material, and I didn't want that. So I went with some Mod Podge. If you want, you can just do this directly on top of the book, but I already had mine kind of wrapped in the brown craft paper. I have several books that I use throughout my home decor like this. So I'm trying to wrap it really tightly as well. I used some other books to kind of weigh it down as I went. And then I was like, okay, do the bottom, do I do the spine? I was just trying to kind of figure out how to do it and keep it nice and tight. And so that's what you see me messing with here. I kind of did this in sections so that it would dry a little bit before I moved on. So you see I put a big book up against the spine of the book to kind of hold it there. And then I didn't wait for it to fully dry before I moved on, but I didn't want it to be moving around on me. I think this would look great for like in a book stack with several with a leather. I only did one and I'm going to style it with other pieces. I'll show you that at the end. But this is an idea I got actually looking at home decor just online on a website. And they were faux book stacks. They weren't even real, with faux leather on them. And they were not cheap. They were like $13 to $20 depending on the size book. So I thought this was a really great idea and a great option. I decided that I did want to fold over the leather on the edges, and I didn't have a lot to work with, so I just kind of took my time. Now I did realize that with the Mod Podge on the edges, it didn't hold as well. So I'm going to go in and use some hot glue to help hold that down. Ultimately, I just decided that that was going to work a little bit better. So I'm going to trim down the excess now that I have a pretty good idea of what I've got, what I'm working with here. And we're going to use our finger protectors so we don't burn ourselves. Definitely would have burnt myself if I hadn't. And I was just using a jar of baking soda that was in my craft room to kind of hold the book open and just go a little bit at a time and work this around. When it came to on the spine, I just trimmed off as close as I could at the top and made it as neat and clean as I could. If you're new, welcome. My name is Leanne. I enjoy sharing budget-friendly DIYs here on this channel. And if you are new, I would love it if you would consider subscribing. Or maybe you're not new and you just see my videos because YouTube recommends them, but you actually haven't subscribed to me. I would love it if you would subscribe to my channel, and that makes sure that YouTube is going to keep showing you my videos, because if you don't subscribe, you're not guaranteed that it's going to show up. So please consider subscribing and then turn on the notification bell. All right, so for a little bit of embellishment, I wanted this to kind of look like a leather journal. So I pulled out a black button. This is from the Dollar Tree. I found a jar of them there. And then I just wanted to tie on some twine. And I'll be honest here, I wasn't patient. I didn't really let the button set. Now, if you wanted this to be more functional, use a stronger glue. Hot glue in the end, it worked fine. I just didn't let it set long enough before I started tying the string, so it popped off. So I'm going to just use this gray twine. I tied a knot and just hot glued that, and then hot glued the button on top of it. That way the knot helped raise the button up a little bit so that I could wrap the twine around it. I decided to wrap it long ways here and just wrap it in, around the book and then around the button a couple times. I decided I needed to make it a lot tighter. But this is really just for decorative purposes. If you wanted to make it more functional, you could do it differently. But I love how this one came out. Let me know what you think about this. This is going to be a great piece to layer in with other books and in with other decor pieces to make little vignettes. This was a really fun one for me. We're starting off this DIY with this little sign. I picked it up from Hobby Lobby after Easter. I probably paid like 30 cents for it. I'm just going to use my heat gun to get off the stickers, and then I'm sanding off some of the sticker residue, and that didn't, I don't know, that worked all right, I guess. And then I'm just going to put a damp paper towel on top here so that I can peel off this paper. And I'm going to just, you can see there's like almost a plastic layer here. Let it set for a few minutes. I scraped off what I could, and then I did it a second round because a lot of times the paper comes in layers, like a plasticky layer, and then the print layer, and then the more paper and adhesive layer. If you just do this a couple times, it'll scrape off really nicely. As you see, it is coming right off. And honestly, if I did this one more time, I could have gotten off the glue, but instead I decided to go in with some orange essential oil to get that off. Do be careful that you clean this afterwards because you don't want the oil to get in the way of paint. And then I'm going to go in with some black paint to paint the border or the outside edges of this piece just for some contrast before we paint the front and the back. If you are enjoying this video, please give it a thumbs up. That helps me out so much. I decided I wanted to paint the rest of it with some texture paint. So I'm using some Waverly, well, I'm going to use a mixture here. I'm using some white paint from Waverly, and it was getting low, so I added a little water into it, and right here, and then that was probably a little too watery, and then I added some more other paint that I had on hand. But we're mixing white paint with baking soda. This will give the paint a little bit of texture. You can also use something like salt wash, which is a paint additive, and from what I hear, it does work better and is stiffer and all of that, but I was okay with it not being, this actually was a lot more textured than I intended for it to be, but you can do it however you want. You don't even have to do the textured paint, but it does cover up really well. And I did use my heat gun to help dry it because as it dries, the paint, the baking soda kind of falls down a little bit. And so speeding up the heating process gave it more texture. And then I pulled out this Waverly, no, this is a white chalk paint from the Dollar General. And I've heard Kristen Kay, if you don't know her, check out her channel. You probably do. She has said that the chalk paint from Dollar General in the black is great. The white, not so much. I did not know that before I bought this, and I would agree. Well, I haven't tried the black yet, but the white chalk paint, not great. It's really thin, even for an acrylic paint. It's just not great. I'm going to move through this part really quick because I tried to use a paint inlay, and I don't know if I didn't leave it to dry long enough or if it was the paint I used, but it was very gummy even after I thought it was dry, and the transfer did not transfer well. I mean, I thought it was going to look rustic anyway because it was on a textured surface, but it was a little too rustic for me. So we're going to paint it. Once again, didn't give it time to dry, so I was blending in the ink or the paint from the inlay, and I had to go on again with another coat and let it dry fully. I did that overnight. I have this resin piece. We're going to go in a totally different direction with this little sign. I have this bird resin piece that a friend poured for me, and we're going to give this, again, I tried to do the white paint and the chalk paint from Dollar General in the white is so weak. So I'm going in with Silver Lining from Waverly. I kind of wish I'd done another color, but this ended up working. You'll see what I do kind of in the end. So I'm giving this a good coat of Silver Lining and then making sure we let that dry fully. And then I used some DIY wax to seal this in, and this worked really well. You just want to use a clean cloth and kind of buff that in. This will seal in the paint. I have used Waverly's wax and I like it, but it doesn't really dry and set as quickly, so I went with the DIY wax. Once that was on, and I'm buffing it in again with a dry paper towel, a clean paper towel, and then I did it in this order because I wanted to put on some white paint, but I wanted to be able to wipe it back. And I'm once again going in with that Dollar General paint, and it was fine for what I was trying to do. and I'm just going to brush that on, trying to get in the little details, and then I will wipe it back with a clean, dry paper towel, just kind of dabbing it. Once everything is dry, we're going to just hot glue this bird onto one side of the sign. And I was looking at this and I was like, okay, the bird blends in a little too much, which is kind of why I was like, maybe I could have done a different color. But I decided to just bring out the texture of the background with some antique wax. I'm just stippling a little bit on and just kind of working it into all of the grooves, and then I will clean it up just a little bit with a paper towel. And this helped that bird just kind of pop. I needed a little bit more of a contrast when all was said and done. I love to hear from you guys, so if you want to say hello down in the comments, even if you just leave me an emoji so that I know you're here, I would love that. And it's also an easy way to help out my channel. For the other side of this little sign, I decided to go into my stash, and this little sticker comes from the Dollar Tree in a pack. And as you can see, it's the same on the top and the bottom, but there's this little foam sticker to elevate it. I went for the top piece, and I just peeled off the foam sticker, and we're going to Mod Podge the whole thing. Sorry for my voice. I'm not sure what is going on, but it's kind of froggy sounding. I'm going to Mod Podge the edges too, just to keep any paint, from chipping off when it's, when I'm decorating with it. But then we're going to put a good coat across the whole front, and then on the back of our little cardboard sign piece to glue this on. I wanted it to be as flush as possible. I knew it wouldn't be fully flush because it is on a textured surface. So I'm just going to try to press that in pretty good and make sure it sticks well. And then I'm going to put a little coat of Mod Podge across the top to just help that stick down and seal in. And this made a cute little double-sided sign. Here it is. Again, I will show everything kind of displayed at the end to show you how I piece things together to style them. But I thought this sign was really pretty, and it took me a little while to figure out exactly what I wanted to do with it. But I do enjoy sharing that process with you because that is real life in the creator's world, and I want you guys to see some of that process. So we're going to work with that faux leather again, and then I also have these gemstone stickers from the Dollar Tree, and I'm just deciding how many I need so I can cut them out and paint them. And we are going to paint them with a couple colors, drying that in between. I wanted it to kind of look like a piece of metal. So I did silver lining, I did mineral, and then I did elephant, all Waverly chalk paint colors. And I have a strip of that faux leather that you see, you saw, I showed you in the beginning. And we're going to wrap this around this little metal canister. This I picked up on sale from Hobby Lobby, and I've redecorated it many times. I'm using some hot glue, which will hold this faux leather very well. But if I want to, I can just heat it up with my heat gun and pop it off and use it again at Christmas time. So I'm just going to wrap that around and just using some hot glue. And then these little stickers are a sticker, so I didn't need to use any glue. And I'm putting them where I made the seam come together because I wanted it to kind of look like little metal grommets or whatever on it. And then I have this greenery that I recently picked up at Walmart on clearance. They were 50 cents each for these little sprigs, and put that all together. And I love how this looks. I love the leather with the metal and the texture combination. I like to just kind of bring different elements together, which is why I call my style a little bit more farmhouse, because I like those natural elements, the natural materials. I feel in a lot of neutral that lends to a more farmhouse style. Here is how I put everything together on a little tray on my coffee table. Let me know what you think. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you are new to this channel, don't forget to subscribe. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, and say hey in the comments. Help out my channel. Even if you just leave me an emoji, let me know you're here. I appreciate it so much. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye guys.